Thank you for joining us today at Osho Niranjana Meditation Center. It's good to see everyone here today. We want to welcome a very special guest today. We have with us today Lama Tsultrim Allione. And I just wanted to give a real brief introduction. And we'll also listen to a very short Osho quote about the practice that we're going to be doing today. But Lama Tsultrim is an author, an internationally known Buddhist teacher, and the founder and resident teacher of Tara Mandala. She was the first American woman to be ordained as a Tibetan nun by His Holiness the 16th Karmapa before returning her vows to marry and raise 3 children. Recognized as the reincarnation of renowned 11th century Tibetan yogini Machi Labdron, she is the author of 3 books, Women of Wisdom, Feeding Your Demons, and Wisdom Rising. This celebrates women in Buddhism, connects the wisdom of Tibetan Buddhism with modern life, and explores Buddhist teachings on the empowered feminine. So we're very honored today. Welcome, Lama. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. So Amritananji, go ahead and we'll listen to a short Osho quote, and then Lama will guide us today in meditation.
Now he says, start being compassionate. And the method is, when you breathe in, listen carefully. It is one of the greatest methods. When you breathe in, think you are breathing all the miseries of all the people in the world. All the darkness, all the negativity, all the hell that exists anywhere, you are breathing it in. And let it absorb, let it be absorbed in your heart. You may have read or heard about so-called positive thinkers of the West. They say just the opposite. They don't know what they are saying. They say when you breathe out, throw all the misery and negativity. And when you breathe in joy, positivity, happiness, cheerfulness. Atisa's method is just the opposite. When you breathe in all the misery and suffering of all the beings of the world, past, present, future. And when you breathe out all the joy that you have, all the blissfulness that you have, all the benediction that you have. Breathe out. Pour yourself into existence. This is the method of compassion. Drink in all the suffering and pour out all the blessings. And you will be surprised if you do it. The moment you take all the sufferings of the world inside you, there are no more sufferings. The heart immediately transforms the energy. The heart is a transforming force. Drink the misery in, and it is transformed into blissfulness. Then pour it out. Once you have learned it, that your heart can do this magic, this miracle, you would like to do it again and again. You try it. It is one of the most practical methods. Simple. And brings immediate results. You do it today and you see.
Greetings, everyone. I'm wondering where you are all from. Maybe in the chat you could put your first name and where you're tuning in from. So I get a little sense of who's here and from where, and we begin to build that etheric web that's so beautiful that we can have on the internet, feeling each other. And let's take a moment to do that, to connect with everyone here. Yeah, it's starting to see some people coming in. San Diego, that's where I am. Italy, Donato. I lived in Italy for 7 years. Redondo Beach. Allione, Nova Scotia. Madrid. Atisha, someone named Atisha here from San Diego. So let's take a moment to raise bodhicitta. That's the intention to be together today for the benefit of all beings. This mudra that I'm making is called the one-pointed mudra. That's a one-pointed dedication to the benefit of beings. So thinking of all the suffering of the world, as Osho was saying, and recognizing that it's really only through our own deep awakening that we can truly be of benefit. We raise the intention to be together, to practice together today for all mother sentient beings. In the Mahayana Buddhism, there's a teaching that all beings have been our mother. They've taken care of us selflessly, gotten up in the night, taken care of us when we're ill, and offered us unconditional love. All beings have had that relationship with us. And so on that basis, we care for them. We return that love, and we commit to practice for their benefit. So let's raise that heartfelt intention. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm just going to look at you for a minute. So, as Paritosh said in the beginning, my training is in the Tibetan tradition. Actually, over 50 years now, I've been in that tradition, and I was ordained in 1970, Bodh Gaya, by the 16th Karmapa. And so the teaching that I'm going to offer today comes out of that Tibetan tradition. And it's essentially what Osho taught in that beginning clip that we played. And I'll give you a little more information about the background of the practice, and then we'll try it together and then open it up, see what questions you have. So this comes out of the Mahayana tradition. There's 3 levels of teaching that occur within Tibetan Buddhism: Sutrayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. And then within Vajrayana, there's the higher teachings of Dzogchen or Mahamudra. And so the Mahayana developed around the turn of the millennium, around the time of Christ. Mahayana was developing in India. And around 200 AD is when it really came forth, and the Mahayana Sutras have emerged. And 2 main sutras were the Prajnaparamita Sutra and the Lotus Sutra, but also the Diamond Sutra and others also emerged at that time. And the Mahayana, the word actually means greater vehicle, Maha, greater or great, and Yana, vehicle. It emerged out of the existing tradition that began with the time of the Buddha, that was around 500 BC. So it had already been going, Buddhism had been going for around 500 years when this new wave developed. Some people accepted it and some people didn't. So the ones that didn't became the Theravadan school of Buddhism, and that was practiced and cultivated more toward the south. So more in Sri Lanka, in Thailand, in those areas. And that became Theravadan Buddhism, as you may know it. And the Mahayanists moved more north. And so into actually areas of current day Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Korea, Japan, and ultimately Tibet, but not Tibet until the 8th century. Buddhism didn't really flourish there until quite late. So already around 1200 years after the time of the Buddha is when Buddhism got to Tibet. And Atisha was a teacher that came from India to Tibet and taught, and actually created probably the most important Tara temple in Tibet. Atisha had that built. It's a temple of the 21 Taras. I've been to it, actually. It's outside of Lhasa. If you ever go to Tibet, try to see it. It's been there for a very long time. And so there's a funny story about Atisha. When he was going to Tibet from India, he taught these practices where sort of difficult things, challenging things, he considered to be a great boon for the path. And so if you have an irritating person in your life, or if you have some tragedy happen in your life, he considered that a benefit for your practice because it gave you something to work with. If everything was easy, you didn't have that sort of challenge to work with, and therefore your practice wouldn't be very deep or strong. And so he had this young man who made him tea, and he was really irritating, this young tea guy. And he would always make the tea wrong. He would do it late. He would spill it. And he was just so irritating. And so Atisha considered him to be very important. And he insisted that he bring this tea maker to Tibet. When he went to Tibet, it was in itself a very difficult journey. You can imagine going up from the plains of India to a country where the lowest altitude is 12,000 feet. That's over 3,000 meters in meters. So very, very high altitude. But he felt he needed this irritation to go with him to keep his practice strong. So he took this young man with him when he walked to Tibet. And then what he said was, once he got to Tibet, oh, I didn't really need to bring him. The Tibetans are plenty irritating. So we probably all have our tea maker people in our lives, and often we think we'd like to not have them in our lives, maybe, or have them less in our lives. But it's good to remember that story. And my husband, David, who died in 2010, and I, when we were creating Tar Mandala, we created this 700-acre retreat center in Colorado, and maybe we can post a link to that if anyone's interested. But really out of nothing. There was no road, there was no electricity, there was no water on this land. And so it was, and we didn't really have money. And so we had to raise money, and it was very challenging for a long time. And now it's thriving. And there's a beautiful 3-story temple there that was built by Bhutanese and Tibetan artisans. It's quite amazing place. But as we were building it, there were lots of irritating people. Okay. And so we used to call that a practice person. Instead of saying, this person, we would just say, oh, he's a practice person for me, or she's a practice person for me. And that's a good reminder to, when we have difficult people in our lives, to not think we should just get rid of them or try to get them out of our lives. Of course, sometimes if they're abusive or something like that, you need to, but if it's just an irritation, it can really be a blessing for your practice to have the tea maker person in your life. So Atisha taught these mind trainings. They're called Lo Jong. Lo means mind, and Jong means to transform or to train. It's a very important Tibetan word, this word Jong. It's the whole idea of practice, meditation practice, is we're transforming something. We're taking it from one thing and we're turning into another thing. And so in this case, it's the mind, the Lo. And there's many words for mind in Tibetan as well. There's the unenlightened mind, the conceptual mind, and then there is mind itself. And they have different words for that. And the word Lo, that's used in Lo Jong, is the unenlightened mind. So it's transforming the unenlightened mind. Another word for that is Sem, S-E-M, or if you write out the whole Tibetan with the silent letters, it's S-E-M-S. So Sem is that unenlightened conceptual mind. And then Sem Ni is mind itself, the nature of mind. And so the Sem Ni is the ground of being, the awakened state, the empty yet luminous awareness, consciousness, which is ever present. And so it's that which we are trying to get to in our mind training. And so one of the ways that this unenlightened mind works is to grasp at itself, to want all good for itself and not really care about anyone or anything else. Does that sound familiar? Does anybody do that? Yeah, we do it probably more than we'd like to admit. I want to be first in line, or I want to get it, I want to get it first. We saw it so much in the beginning of COVID with things like toilet paper. Remember that? Where everybody was madly trying to buy more. Somehow, some sort of survival instinct got linked to toilet paper, and they were like fighting over it. So we all have these instincts. And so the practice of Tonglen and all the mind trainings, and there are books about all of the mind trainings, and they're very interesting, is to work with that self-clinging mind. In Tibetan, a word for it is dakzin or ngadzin. Dak is I, and zin is to cling, to grasp. And so the way that the dakzin works is to attempt to cling to the self, to get what's good for the self, and what's bad, everyone else can have that. And so it's a reversal of that. And I noticed that when Osho was talking about it, he talked about the heart as the instrument that transforms that negativity, the suffering, the disease, the anxiety, the depression, and so on, into love and compassion. The heart. And it's not the physical heart. It's what we call the heart mind that dwells in the heart chakra, in the center of our hearts. So let's take a moment and just touch your heart. Just touch that part of your body and see if you can feel it. See if you can awaken that. It's subtle. It's in your subtle body. But in the Tibetan tradition, it is said, this is where the mind is. And it's called the heart mind, the Ning. And this is where wisdom is in our bodies. It's not in the brain. The brain is considered to be the body, and this is the mind. And the speech is in the throat. So body, speech, and mind, head, throat, heart. So this is where Osho saw that the transformation takes place. And this is the teaching. It's also in that moment of turning, when that negativity that you're breathing in transforms into love and compassion and goes out, there's a flash on emptiness. Emptiness doesn't mean the black hole in space. And it doesn't mean also that nothing exists. But what it means is that things do not exist in the solidity that we hold them in. When we normally look, like I'm looking out in the room I'm in here, I'm seeing chairs and a couch and wall and pictures and so on. And when I normally look at that, I think that there is a thing that is a chair, that is a couch, that is a painting. But if I'm looking at it with the eyes of emptiness, I'm recognizing that these are merely appearing, and that they are actually particles and waves. We know that from science. And so they are empty of the intrinsic separate existence that we attribute to them. In other words, I am interdepending with all this. And when I break it down into molecules and then into particles and waves, which is, the Buddha actually talked about that. He talked about partless particles, and that everything is partless particles. And those partless particles themselves are empty of the independent existence that we attribute to them. So as we turn the breath around in our hearts, we could flash on that luminous, empty quality that is the true way that things actually are, not how the ego that creates subject-object fixation sees them. So essentially, this practice is breathing in, not altering the breath. You're not trying to breathe in a different way, like take a big breath. You're just breathing in. And it's like your nose is kind of like a vacuum cleaner. And it's inhaling, it's absorbing all the suffering of the world. And perhaps you know specific suffering. You maybe have a friend who's dying or ill, or maybe you know people who are suffering emotionally in different ways. And certainly we are aware of the war in the Ukraine right now, all very aware of that, all those hundreds of thousands of people involved with that. and all the other places in the world where there's actual suffering. So it's general, all suffering, but it can be helpful also to think about specific situations to make it more alive for you. So you breathe that in and you see it as sort of a dark, sticky substance that you breathe in. And it's seen as hot. In the traditional teachings, it's described as being hot, sticky, and dark. And it goes in, and then in that moment of turning around in the heart, you flash on emptiness, and then you breathe out the cool breeze of love and compassion. And that cool breeze reaches those beings that you've taken the suffering from, and it calms them. It relieves them. It offers them love, which is like a nectar that fills them, and they're relieved from suffering. So again, this is general, this general field of the cool breeze of compassion and love that goes out. And then the breathing in again, both specific and general. And that's it. It's pretty simple. This is a good practice to do if you're sitting with someone who is dying. How many of you have actually seen that? Have you been with somebody? Maybe just raise your hand if you've had that experience. Yeah. And or perhaps you haven't had that experience, but you have a child and you've sat with a child who's ill, sit by their bed. They love to have that comfort when they're sick. So you can do Tonglen as you sit with the dying or the ill or with children. Also, for those of you, are any of you therapists, like psychotherapists? Maybe raise your hand if you are. I'm seeing a few. Yeah, so sometimes your clients are speaking and it's a lot of suffering you're hearing. You can silently do Tonglen for them, and they don't even know that you're doing it, but it will help them. Of course, you are compassionate with them in any case, but by doing Tonglen as you're listening, it can transform that field between you and your clients, or perhaps you're a massage therapist, or you work with others in some way. So you can use this in lots of different situations, and you can do it as a meditation. So shall we try it? Shall we try it? Yeah. And then we'll do it a little bit, and then we'll open it up for questions or comments, and then we'll see if there are any, and then we'll see how the time is, and if we have time, maybe we'll try it again. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. So get comfortable. Do this with our eyes closed. Take a moment to come into an awareness of your body, your breath, and we'll begin with Tonglen for ourselves. Sometimes it's hardest to have compassion for ourselves, harder than for other people. So let's take a moment and breathe in your own suffering. Flash on emptiness in the hearts and let it be transformed, and then breathe out to yourself the cool breeze of love and compassion. Perhaps recalling specific kinds of suffering that you've had or that you have. And if it's helpful, you can put your hand on your heart. Breathing in that sticky, hot stuff transformed in the heart and goes out as the cool breeze of compassion. And now move out to those in your immediate environment, beginning with those it's easy for you to feel compassion for, perhaps your children, your beloved, if you have someone you're close to in your life, or dear friends. Breathing in their suffering, their illness, their stress, depression, anxiety. Breathe that in. Transformed and then goes out as the cool breeze of compassion. Breathe it in. Let the heart transform it. And let it go. And let it go back to them. Really being specific with certain people that you love, that you care for. And now think of someone who you actually know, or some people that are difficult, your practice people, challenging people that you actually know. And now extend this to them, taking on their suffering. Their illness, their tensions. Breathing it in and transforming in your heart and offering back the cool breeze of love. And imagine they are actually taking that in. Difficult people. And now extend this out to your immediate community. If you're in a city, your neighbors, the whole area around where you are. If you're in the country, out to the beings around you. And if you're in a more wild place, there's more animals. Extend to them as well. And be willing to take it on. Be willing to carry this, to take it, to take their suffering. And the heart transforms it with the flash of emptiness. And you offer back a beautiful breeze of compassion. And now extend it out further. And be sure to include those beings that you don't like, that you're politically opposed to, or in some way, any groups that you don't like. And be willing to take on their suffering as well. And also those that you're attached to, that you're happy to offer your love to, but it's a partial love, it's partiality, it's not impartial. And now for this moment, release those likes and dislikes and really be willing to take in the suffering of all beings. And extend that out to the whole world. And particularly, you could bring your mind to areas of the world where there's conflict, or perhaps there's famine, starvation, all kinds of suffering. Think of all the hospitals in the world and all those who are lonely and suffering in their own homes. So you have to make your heart really big. We call this, transform it and offer back love and compassion and equanimity. So this love and compassion is not partial. It's not just for some and not for others. It's for all beings. Feel the vastness of this intention and perhaps your resistance to doing this. Like, oh, I don't know if I really want to take all this. Overcome that and realize that the heart can handle it. Your great heart of love can take all this and transform it. vast heart, vast compassion. And going to all beings, not just human beings, all sentient beings, all the animals that are going for sacrifice to be killed, who know that, all their fear, all the other animals in the world that are afraid of predators. Just for this time, remove that fear and offer them peace and love. All beings under the ocean as well, and in the rivers and lakes. Beings in jungles, beings in high mountains, and all the billions of beings in cities. Notice how your heart feels now. And then gradually come back to opening your eyes and keeping that sense of love and compassion coming out of you, emanating from you. Thank you for your practice. We just made the world a little better.